Hi guys, TR Tony here, and welcome back to Saturday. And this weekend, I thought I'd do another one of our Saturday Sockets podcasts because I'm away for a short break, and I thought it'd be rather typical and rather humorous to share with you. And if you're not part of this email, then just go into the description and click on it and sign up there. It's a free email we get every week, and it's different every week. Lots of off-camera shenanigans to do with Arry the Stag. Anyway, this story I wrote a couple of months back, and just wanted to share it with you because it tickled me. It really did. And it started off by saying, shout out Arry the Stag next time that you see someone get their comeuppance. And there we were on a short break in North Devon actually, and driving through the streets of Minehead, minding our own business. We were looking for a place to park somewhere. We just bought some lunch and just wanted somewhere safe to pull over and have a bit of a nosh. And as we were cruising the roads near the very famous Butlins Holiday Park there, it's been there for many decades, ever since I was a boy, but the Butlins Holiday Park is obviously a very busy place. We suddenly became very aware though of a raucous engine somewhere nearby, a raucous engine note nearby, and I instantly recognised it and thought, that sounds to me like a decent classic car. And really, how right I was, because moments later, as we'd rounded a bend, there it was. And this time it was a beautiful TVR Griffith. It was a lovely looking sports car, resplendent in the early June sunshine in a gorgeous metallic red paint with white leather interior, just offsetting the car in that sunshine. It was absolutely stunning, and in my view one of the last of the hairy chested British sports cars, I reckon. But the only thing was, the driver was obviously a bit of a knob. You know the type, dashingly good looking with swept back jet black dark hair, irritatingly slim as well, with a square jaw and a very hard earned suntan. He must have spent years on a suntan bed trying to earn it. Even though it was only June, he still looked like some kind of Greek god in his own right. And he was sporting, to show it off, a white polo jumper, I noticed, and also wearing those stupid brown leather driving gloves. You know, the ones that, like my grandfather always insisted on giving us as an extra stocking filler at Christmas. I mean, they were all right for drivers back then in the 1970s, but really, in the modern day and world, I really don't think so. And I must point out in all this, I didn't fancy him in any way, you understand. It's no longer an issue these days, of course, but anyway, the driver was one of those cocks, with thanks to Jeremy Clarkson, who could, as I quote, snap knicker elastic at 50 yards. He's one of those geezers, you know. From all the admiring ladies watching his antics who are just drooling and swooning over him driving about in his classic V8 TVR, it was just beggared belief to see. And of course, he had the convertible roof down, didn't he? Tick. And he had on the mandatory Helly Hansen jacket too, didn't he? Tick. Not that he's ever been anywhere near water, with the collar up, of course. Tick. After all, it was a bit of a windy day, and of course not to mention the Ray-Ban Navigator glasses either. Tick. He was the spitting image of James Dean. Daddy cool. And, what's more, he had an equally good-looking buddy sat in the passenger seat alongside him. He was sporting a brown leather bomber jacket, looking very chic, and he had a rugged blonde and tousled haircut, and his styling was like a privet hedge. Honestly, it really was. It was shaking about in the breeze a little bit, but never really lost its coiffured shape at all. Tick. Well, what a pair of diddlos, I thought. In summary, guys, think aged Take That on speed, but both very much the wrong side of 55. Oh yes, these were a couple of swells just cruising around the streets of Minehead, being very cool and obviously on the pull. I mean, no offence, but judging by the look of the grockles, and we call grockles in Bournemouth holiday makers, by the way, and they were ambling around the streets in the vicinity of Butlins, who actually themselves, poor sods, had only just managed to stray out of their Billy Butlin book early holiday camp to investigate the whole outside world around them of seaside amusements, bucket and spade shops and fish and chip cafes of Minehead. They'd been locked in there since last Tuesday, you see, and had finally given the guards on the front gate the slip. The only hot bit of stuff our fellows were going to pull was at least 28 stone and like a professional arm wrestler from Wigan. Identical to one of those old boats tied up at the quayside in a local harbour. In other words, a tug. In any case, their plan was flawed. Only ever 2 seats in a TVR Griffiths, you see. And unless the up-for-it quarry was happy to sit behind them on the luggage rack, they couldn't have pulled if they'd tried. Unswayed by all of this, however, the two cocks decided it would be really fun to give the TVR some welly, and so they revved the engine, and as we last witnessed, they shot up the side road at full tilt, going over the hill on the horizon, showing off they were. Ooh, look at me! Look at us! Aren't we the daddies? Full blast they went, with the TVR's V8 engine on full throttle, roaring away towards the distant horizon with its 8 cylinders burbling majestically. It was like a space rocket on reheat. It really was. Well, what a pair of dicks, I said to myself as they shot over the hill, thinking they were the bee's balls. Well, it wasn't until much later, where we'd eventually parked up on the Harbourside Road, and by then we were enjoying a little light picnic luncheon whilst we were sat in the car, whence we heard the TVR's engine noise again, and this time it was heading back to our position. It was heading our way, although some 20 minutes now had passed. It was they were still posing and showboating like men possessed, driving around the same little 10-minute town centre circuit that you see freshly passed my test 17-year-olds adopt the instant they get their freedom. You know what it's like, and they fly solo for the first time. Seems to be a phenomenon only the prevail of the 17-year-old just past the test drivers, and they love to go around town centres showing off and behind the wheel of their car. Yes, in fact, you see them in every weekend, I think, guys, going around every town centre loop around the UK. There's usually one or two of them flying around if you happen to be in your city centre, often with I call it a bitten off exhaust that reverberates so loudly it upsets all the locals, and I might add, usually with a subwoofer on full blast, which nearly breaks all the shop windows as they go by, what with all that boom tish boom tish going on. Well, at least our pair of swells had grown out of that last habit, but nevertheless, as I'm eating my Scotch egg and happily chortling to my wife in the car sat there, I then experience the joy of joys, actually, when I see a local panda police car sneak in, unseen by our friends, and right up behind the Griffiths as they're travelling along, and then with a lightning flash of blue lights and a squeak of his siren, TVR man is shot down in flames and curmudgeonly pulled over to the side of the road by the boys in blue. He didn't know what just hit him, but now he was in serious doo-doos. Of course, me and Lady Throop then had a ringside seat, didn't we? We thought it was marvellous, and as we munched our way through our very tasty sandwich, we saw the whole ignominy of TVR man's fate unfold, noting that his sidecock was also being very meek at this stage too. In other words, not saying a word. So the cursory around the car police inspection started. You know what the cops are like. They're checking the tyres, they're inspecting the headlights, they're looking for any dodgy number plate configured incorrectly, and phoning HQ, of course, to do a DVLA, tax and MOT and insurance check, all the usual stuff. You know what it's like. While the driver, now completely crestfallen and embarrassed at his plight, protested his innocence and surprise as to why he'd been stopped. Oh yes, the old Bill really threw the book at him this time. 25 minutes passed in all of this, and by now we were on to our pudding and enjoying a yoghurt, as I remember. As it was, and because it was only a panda, i.e. a local police car, they didn't or couldn't nick him for speeding, which he'd obviously been doing, but they couldn't actually calibrate any machines to prove it, and that was a bit of bad luck on our part, I think, because I'd like to have seen him nicked, but they did issue him with a ticket and a fixed penalty notice, but being a little bit out of earshot, we couldn't actually tell what they'd nabbed him for. So I think I'd like to think that the local constabulary have a cock-at-large sensor designed for exactly these situations. But if there was an offence for being a dick and letting the rest of us classic car owners down, perpetuating the idiot teenagers driver's syndrome of those that are on the road and 40-odd years his junior, giving us all a bad name, then I really hope that that's what he got done for. And although it's only a small ask, one less ageing, bouffanted poseur on the road has got to be a good thing. And I'll say, ha-ha, and a big Arry the Stag to that. There you go, guys. That's been it this week. Hope you enjoyed that. Please leave your comments below, and we'll see you online on Arry the Stag very soon. Cheers for now. Have a great week. Bye.